Okay, I'm going to share some of my thoughts on a book I just read called Quiet by Susan Cain. The subtitle is The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking. And the subtitle really summarizes the entire book. Well, the book has, actual examples and a tremendous amount of research to support the idea that there is power to being an introvert. So, an extroverted person, people generally describe them as sociable, talkative, outgoing. These are all positive definitions. But when a person in our culture says something about an introverted person, it's not positive qualities, it's what they're lacking. So, an extroverted person, you say they're sociable. An introverted person, you'll hear they're not sociable. They're not talkative. So it's all negative symptoms. Instead of describing an introverted person as not talkative, why don't we say that they're a thinker, a deep thinker, introspective? It's not that they're antisocial, they just socialize in a different way. They generally want to socialize with people one-on-one, in smaller groups, have deeper conversations, whereas an extroverted person can have many conversations going on at once, but the conversations tend to be a little more shallow. Both types of people are capable of behaving either way, and it's good to stretch yourself and, you know, don't limit yourself to whatever label people have called you, what you call yourself, but respect your natural temperament and don't forsake who you really are for the sake of trying to meet someone else's value system. In the first part of the book, part one, is called The Extrovert Ideal, and it's essentially how we live in a personality culture rather than a character culture. You know, the workplace and school is being designed more and more to encourage constant interaction. Now, what this does to people who are more introverted is it actually hinders their creativity and their productivity and even their physical health, because the nervous systems of people who are more inside their head are actually different than extroverted people. You know, if an introverted person enters a room with a lot of activity going on, they tend to shut down socially, but inside here there's a lot going on. They're processing all the sounds. They're far more sensitive to sensory perceptions. So someone who doesn't talk much thinks much. There's a lot that's being processed. Part two is your biology, yourself, which goes into all this discussion of temperament and, the whole nature versus nurture debate. Basically, the moral of the story is you shouldn't have to apologize for your temperament. You shouldn't have to apologize for the way you are. You just have to recognize what your natural tendencies are, own up to it, and adapt to it, but don't forsake who you are or apologize for who you are. If you have trouble with social skills, you can certainly learn how to communicate better, but you should also respect your need to recharge your social batteries. And many creative people like Dr. Seuss, Lewis Carroll, Albert Einstein, Vincent van Gogh, if they never spent time in their heads or spent time alone, you wouldn't have Alice in Wonderland or Van Gogh's Flowers. Neurodiversity is a great thing. If we all thought exactly the same, then it would be a far less interesting world. We need the people who are men of action, but we also need men of thought. And again, it's not like it's so simple, like there's just one, extroverted type person and another introverted type person. It's a spectrum, and even Carl Jung, who popularized these terms, warned against the danger of becoming too dogmatic about such terminology, because no one is as simple as the label used to define them. Human beings are far more complicated than the labels we use to describe ourselves. That being said, generalizations are useful to the extent that they at least offer some description of how people behave generally. But it's not the full picture. There's details underneath these generalizations, and you should get to know a person as an individual rather than just a stereotype. So part 3 is, do all cultures have an extrovert ideal? It gives a lot of examples of Asian Americans who traveled to America and they have to adapt to the classroom setting, which is much more social and group activity oriented, and students are encouraged to talk in class, whereas in, say, Japan, silence, the ability to listen is seen in it's respected. That's a skill set. To be able to not speak constantly is viewed as a sign of intellectual success, whereas here, if you're not constantly talking, you risk being thought of as shy or awkward or unintelligent, because oftentimes people equate speaking really fast and confidently with actually knowing what the heck you're talking about. And just because someone seems confident in what they're saying, it doesn't necessarily mean that what they're saying means anything. The best speaker isn't necessarily the best thinker. The best thinkers aren't necessarily the best speakers. So whatever your weakness is, you should definitely work on it. That's the moral of the story I got from this book. But you should never have to apologize for the way you are. Just recognize how you are and modify your behavior to survive in whatever culture you're born into, but also make an effort to modify your culture in a way that's more caring and allows for the true expression of the individual, because nobody likes to feel like they're just a pawn on a chessboard being moved around. That I don't understand why I just said that. Okay, anyways. Okay, and part 4 is called How to Love, How to Work, which is basically a self-help for introverts, encouraging the ability to act more extroverted during certain social contexts, and it also offers advice to extroverts who are in relationships with people who are introverted, and how to recognize their needs and respect their boundaries. And actually, everyone's in a relationship with someone who's introverted. But again, we're a big mix. We all behave differently depending on the context in which we're behaving. You know, you put on many selves. William James said something about that, how for however many people you care about, that's how many different versions of yourself there are. Alright, here's the exact quote from William James. A man has many social selves as there are distinct groups of persons about whose opinion he cares. He generally shows a different side of himself to each of these different groups. That's what's up. That's basically my summary of the book. The only bad thing I have to say about it is that it seems a little biased towards praising the positive qualities of introverts. And I recognize this because I am more introverted, and the author describes herself as an introvert. So my bias detectors were kind of being signaled because this book was making me feel a little too good about myself. But again, it maybe balances against the cultural bias there is that against introverted people. So we need more stuff like this. Alright, thank you for watching, liking, sharing, and subscribing. And I'll just talk a little bit about what's going on the screen here. this is a new thing I'm doing where I post all my stuff, and you can click on it and go to what you're clicking on. So the video right there, Jan Zilker, is a music video I just recently did, and the Bandcamp, I upload all my music. Facebook page, I upload a lot of animation in progress and just talk to people about stuff, so you can follow me on Facebook. And then I just made a Patreon kind of recently, and so you can click on any of this stuff you're seeing here. Thanks a lot for watching. I'll see you later.